Mega Man is basically built on 4 ideas. You fail, you learn, you pick a path, and you keep smashing your head into it until something gives. That's the game. You pick a stage, die, figure out what dumb thing killed you, then jump back in. The whole point is to lose and then actually learn something from it. So for a character built on that, it's actually kind of infuriating to see where Mega Man is now. Capcom just forgot everything the game's ever tried to teach us. This isn't just one bad game nuking the franchise. It's not one failed reboot. It's not even one suit at Capcom deciding Mega Man doesn't matter anymore. This mess got way bigger. We had years with no games at all, projects getting axed left and right, too many Mega Men fighting for attention, and fans split between Classic, X, Legends, Battle Network, Star Force, and meanwhile, Capcom shifts their focus to Monster Hunter and Street Fighter and basically anything else that looked more like a modern blockbuster. That's what makes this whole thing so weird. Mega Man didn't vanish because nobody cared. The fans kept showing up, the collection sold, even the last game, Mega Man 11, sold. The audience was right there waving their wallets. Capcom just never seemed to have a clue what kind of future they were aiming for Mega Man. This isn't some neat story about a franchise failing. It's a story about a company sitting on one of the most recognizable characters in gaming and somehow never deciding what to do with them next. We're at a point now where if the next game, Dual Override, flops, who knows when we'll see another Mega Man game? Maybe never. So here's a question I'm going to try to answer. How did one of gaming's most recognizable characters get stuck sidelined for over a decade? And to do that, we should start from the beginning. Before we even get into Mega Man, we need to talk about what he was to Capcom. On the surface, it's easy to call him Capcom's Mario or Sonic, and honestly, I get it. Back in the NES days, Mega Man was one of the most recognizable third-party platformers out there. Street Fighter and Resident Evil blew up for Capcom too, but those were ensemble casts. Mega Man was different. One character, simple design, clear silhouette, and a franchise that was everywhere for a while. So by default, he became Capcom's mascot, the face of the company. But that comparison only works if you don't look too hard. Mario and Sonic weren't just popular. They were glued to their platforms. Nintendo and Sega sold hardware, so their mascots were basically walk-in advertisements for the consoles. Mario sold Nintendo systems. Buy a Super Nintendo, you're buying into Mario's world. The characters and the platforms were tied together, so Nintendo had every reason to keep Mario relevant, modern, and front and center. Mario's relevance was Nintendo's relevance, and Sonic was made for the same reason. Sega needed someone to stand across Mario and make the Genesis feel different. They wanted a mascot who screamed Sega was faster and had more attitude, so Sonic became the face of Sega's marketing. And for a while, he was the reason Sega felt like a real alternative to Nintendo.
Why can't it be more like that nice boy Mario? Oh! Little brat!
Mega Man didn't have anything like that. Capcom was a third-party developer. They didn't sell hardware, they sold games for other people's consoles. They started with arcade games like Vulgus, 1942, Commando, Ghosts and Goblins, and then moved to home consoles. In 1987, Capcom dropped Street Fighter in arcades and Mega Man on the NES. So Mega Man could become culturally important, and he did. He could become the face of Capcom's NES era, and he was. He could be Capcom's closest thing to a Mario Sonic, but he was never tied to Capcom's survival the way Mario was to Nintendo or Sega was to Sonic. And that difference actually matters because Capcom could bench Mega Man whenever they felt like it. You can't even imagine Nintendo without Mario. Sega without Sonic barely even makes any sense. But Capcom without Mega Man, that's still Capcom, still making money. That lopsidedness explains a lot of what happens next. So when we go through this mess and you start to wonder why Capcom made half these choices, remember, Mega Man might have looked like Capcom's mascot, but he was never treated like one. So Mega Man came out in 1987 on the NES, and it was not immediately a massive hit. The game actually sold modestly at best, but it sold well enough that Capcom made a sequel, and Mega Man 2 came out in 1988, and that one became the breakout. That's the game that turned Mega Man into a franchise. It's a game a lot of people still hold up as one of the best NES games ever made. And if you look at what Mega Man actually was at a game design level, you can understand pretty quickly why it worked so well. The structure of the game was simple, but really smart. You had Dr. Wily, of course, and this time you had 8 Robot Masters, each with their own stage, gimmick, their own weapon, and their own weakness. And technically, you could start almost anywhere, but that freedom comes with a catch. Every time you beat a boss, you get their weapon, and suddenly some other boss or stage gets easier or harder to manage. It's basically Pokemon logic before Pokemon existed. Some weapons are useless in one fight, but completely broken in another. So yeah, the order actually matters. You're not just plowing through levels, you're actually building a route, whether you realize it or not. For example, maybe you go after Metal Man first because the Metal Blade is ridiculously useful, fires multiple directions, barely uses ammo, and makes a huge chunk of the game a lot more manageable. Every weapon changes your options, and every boss you defeat gives you a new answer to a problem you couldn't solve as easily before. Pretty much that's the game. Beat a boss, take the weapon, use that weapon to change how you approach the next stage, then keep adjusting your route until you reach Wily's Fortress, where the game stops letting you choose and starts asking whether you actually learned anything. It's that simple and it's fun to replay. Most importantly for Capcom, it's the kind of thing you can crank out forever. Each year you can add 8 new robot masters, a new rally plan, new stage themes, and new music, and now you have a whole new game. The core design is made for easy updates. Every new entry could still feel fresh, but still instantly recognizable as a Mega Man game. Compare that to something like a platformer that depends on a specific world or a progression system, and you can see why Mega Man was almost perfectly engineered for the NES era of gaming. Games were cracked out fast, development cycles were short, and sequels were expected. Capcom could return to the Mega Man well often, and reliably deliver something the audience recognized and wanted. The music helped too. Mega Man's composers, and especially Manami Matsume on the original, and Takashi Takaishi on Mega Man 2, they created some of the most iconic 8-bit music tracks in gaming history. The soundtrack was a big selling point. It made the games feel larger than life, and gave each entry its own memorable identity beyond just the boss designs. The visuals helped as well. You have a blue robot with a helmet and an arm cannon. The design was simple, clean, and instantly recognizable. It was easy to put Mega Man on merchandise, posters, and cartoons. He has one of the most recognizable video game silhouettes ever made. And there's one other thing the NES Mega Man games did that made them stick with people. They were hard in a way that felt fair. You died because you made the wrong call. You picked the wrong boss, missed time to jump, forgot the spike pattern. You died and you understood why. And the game gave you just enough information to feel like you could figure it out if you tried. Mega Man taught mastery, and mastery is one of the most addictive feelings a game can give you. So you have a character with a strong visual identity, a formula perfectly suited for rapid sequels, a musical tradition that makes the games feel epic, and an action platformer genre that was absolutely central to the mainstream console market in the late 1980s and the early 1990s. Mega Man was not just popular because we liked him, he was popular because the era he was born into was basically custom built for what he was. So, Capcom does what makes sense. They make more Mega Man games. A lot more. Alright, Mega Man 2 came out in 1998, Mega Man 3 came out in 1990, Mega Man 4 in 1991, Mega Man 5 in 1992, and Mega Man 6 in 1993. That's 6 mainline games in 6 years on the NES alone. It was an insanely fast release schedule, and by the end of the NES era, fans debated whether the series was stretched too thin. Some wondered if Mega Man 5 and 6 felt like the formula was running out of steam compared to the earlier games, but the machine kept running. Then it expanded onto the Game Boy, where there were 5 Mega Man games across the handheld's lifespan, and the series followed along to the Super Nintendo and later PlayStation. By the mid-1990s, Mega Man was no longer a single series. He has multiple overlapping series on multiple platforms, and then Capcom makes a decision that changes what Mega Man means. They make Mega Man X.
All the bases are on.
西暦 2100WX 年レプリロイドたちの反乱が始まったもう一人のヒーローロックマン X
Mega Man X was released in 1993 on the Super Nintendo. It wasn't a direct sequel to the classic series, it was more of a reimagining set in the same timeline about 100 years later. The game was harder, faster, darker, and way more complex than the original Mega Man formula. With the classic series as bright and almost cartoonish, Mega Man X felt more mature. The story involves these robots called Reploids who go maverick and need to be hunted down. And somehow the story felt more serious and gritty, even though most of the story was told through stage design and bosses. The game introduces wall jumping and dashing and a layer of mechanical depth the classic series just didn't have. And the level designs rewards exploration and mastery in ways that felt different from classic Mega Man. And it worked. Mega Man X was well received, critically and commercially. And it spawned its own series, Mega Man X2, X3, and eventually all the way through X8 and X Command Mission. Classic Mega Man was childhood. Mega Man X is what happens when the kids who grew up with Mega Man wanted something sharper, faster, and a little more dramatic. But what really matters about Mega Man X is that it created a second audience. Classic Mega Man fans were not always X fans, and X fans were not always classic fans. Some enjoyed both, but the games appealed to different tastes. The classic series was nostalgic, bright, and mascot friendly, while the X series was edgier and more challenging. This split in the audience would keep coming up as Capcom tried new ways to reinvent Mega Man. Every reinvention was successful enough to create its own fanbase, and every fanbase then became a group that wanted more of that specific thing. Classic fans wanted classic, X fans wanted X, and Capcom now had two things to maintain instead of one. Then we get Mega Man's first appearance on television, which actually plays an important role in the story and sets a pattern that keeps repeating. The Mega Man cartoon ran from 1994 to 1996 for 27 episodes. It's not exactly what you'd call a prestige production. The animation is what you'd expect from a syndicated kid show in the mid-90s, which is to say it's functional and sometimes unintentionally funny.
Don't I get a say in this?
Sure. What'll it be? A clip job?
Or a pounding.
How about both at the same time?
At least it existed. Mega Man actually made it onto TV right when the franchise was everywhere, which is more than you can say about a lot of game mascots. Supposedly, there was even talks about a Mega Man X spinoff, but of course that went nowhere. Here's the thing. That 90s cartoon didn't save Mega Man from fading into the background every time the games got bad. Other franchises figured this out. Look at Sonic, for example. Sonic just kept cranking out cartoons, even when the games were a disaster, so you couldn't forget about them. Mega Man, he got his shot, but once the cartoon fills it out, so did his place in pop culture. This is the first time we see the pattern. Mega Man gets a media push that's solid and actually works, and then it ends and there's nothing to replace it. The franchise has never developed the kind of persistent media infrastructure that could have carried it through the rougher years ahead. It's a detail that matters more in retrospective than it did at the time. In the mid-90s, with the X series running strong and new games still coming, the lack of a sustained cartoon felt like a missed opportunity at most. What it actually was a preview of how Capcom would handle media and franchise infrastructure going forward. And then Capcom drops Mega Man Legends, which is probably the most out there reinvention in the whole franchise. This wasn't just Mega Man but in 3D, that would have been the obvious move. Take the old formula, add a Z-axis, toss them in a bigger room, done. But Legends goes off the rails. Suddenly Mega Man is in an action-adventure game that's part dungeon crawler, part Saturday morning cartoon, part weirdly cozy action RPG thing, and somehow it all works. Instead of picking a stage and blasting through robot masters, you're wandering around towns, talking to random people, exploring ruins, upgrading weapons, fighting pirates, digging up ancient tech, and just getting sucked into a world that actually feels bigger than anything Mega Man usually gets. Classic Mega Man has levels, Mega Man X has missions, Legends has places, towns, a whole world to explore. That is the big difference. For this one, Mega Man doesn't feel like he pops into existence when the gameplay starts. He's got a home base, he's got people. Roll isn't just some background NPC waiting for her one line. She's your mechanic, your partner, your support system, and honestly the only reason this whole thing doesn't collapse. The Bone family aren't just bosses, they're these ridiculous cartoon criminals who make the world feel more alive every time they show up. That is why the Legends fans really love these games, because Legends gave Mega Man something the rest of the franchise almost never did. A world you actually want to come back to, not just harder stages, not just cooler bosses. A place, a vibe, a cast. There's this weird mixture of adventure, mystery, comedy, and melancholy that really shouldn't work, but somehow does. And no, Legends wasn't some massive hit. It didn't suddenly make Mega Man a 3D superstar, but it did create one of the most obsessed corners of the fan base. Because if that's the version of Mega Man that worked for you, nothing else in the series ever really replaced it. Then Mega Man Legends 2 drops, makes the world bigger, pushes the story further, and does the one thing you should never do unless you're actually coming back. It ends on a cliffhanger. And the follow-up, the third game, it just never happens. But we'll get to that mess.
Game Boy Advance.
Mega Man Zero drops in 2002 on the Game Boy Advance. It picks up the X timeline and puts Zero in charge. And compared to Classic or even X, the Zero games are a lot harder. They're faster, more demanding, stylish, and absolutely not interested in holding your hand. But that's also why they stand out. It's not as approachable as Classic, and honestly I don't think these games are for everyone. But they have a real identity, and for the people who clicked with it, Zero stopped just being the cool guy from X and became his own Mega Man. They cranked out 4 Zero games in 3 years, which is kinda insane. And then in 2006 we got ZX, which is basically Zero's less punishing little brother. It's easier, but it's still got the same DNA. By mid-2000s, Mega Man had basically cloned itself 6 times. We had Classic, X, Legends, Zero, ZX, and Battle Network, which we're going to get to next. They're all technically Mega Man, but they're almost completely different games aimed at a very different audience. And Capcom is maintaining all of them simultaneously, or at least trying to. Honestly, it's kind of wild. Capcom wasn't just sitting around, they were throwing everything at the wall. The problem wasn't laziness, the problem was every time they tried something new, they accidentally created a new group of fans who wanted more of that exact thing. Suddenly, Capcom was juggling a dozen different Mega Men and dropping balls everywhere. I know I keep saying Capcom had a problem with making a new Mega Man every time they sneeze, but this one is different. They actually cooked with Battle Network. This is the one that finally got me. Before this, Mega Man was just the blue guy from the game I played at my friend's house once or twice. Then Battle Network drops and suddenly I'm all in. For a while, this was Mega Man. Not the old stuff, not the Robot Masters, just this. I was exactly the kind of kid they were aiming for, and yeah, it worked. Battle Network is probably the only time post-NES that Capcom actually figured out what to do with Mega Man. For a minute anyway. Did they finally fix him forever? Of course not. But for one tiny window, they actually nailed it. Then, yeah, let's get into this mess. Battle Network dropped in 2001 on the Game Boy Advance. And no, this wasn't just Mega Man with a new coat of paint. Capcom basically tore the whole thing down and rebuilt it for a bunch of kids who couldn't care less about the NES. Forget platforming, forget stage select, forget Robot Masters. Now you got a whole world obsessed with the internet. Everyone has a digital buddy called a NetNavi, and the main kid's name is Lanakari, because of course it is. And he's got the NetNavi with MegaMan.exe. So this time around, this is our Mega Man. Battles? Well, they're in cyberspace, and you're juggling cards, grids, chips, viruses, and whatever else Capcom could throw at the wall. It's part action game, part RPG, part trading card game, and somehow it all works. And I know it sounds like a mess. It kinda is. But this was the exact kind of chaos Mega Man needed at this time. Battle Network wasn't just for the old guard. Capcom didn't care about the NES crowd. This was for the Pokemon generation, the Digimon kids, the Yu-Gi-Oh duelists, the Beyblade weirdos. Games, anime, cards, toys, manga, kids arguing on a playground about which chip was the best. Capcom looked at all that chaos and made a Mega Man that fit perfectly in that era. And for once, they didn't half-ass it. They went all in. This wasn't just a nostalgia grab. Capcom actually wanted Mega Man to matter right then. Not just to sit around as old fans argue about it. Battle Network did something every legacy franchise wants to do. It made Mega Man feel like it belonged to kids again. Not their older siblings, not their parents, them. Battle Network became the Battle Network era. It had 6 mainline games, Apollo spin-offs, and an entire ecosystem that made Mega Man feel genuinely current again. It wasn't retro, it wasn't a revival, it was now. The only thing that really mattered though is that Capcom actually committed. They didn't just make one Battle Network game and wait to see what happened. They built out the whole franchise on every front. Anime, manga, merchandise, and it kept going on for years. Battle Network proved that Mega Man could be completely reinvented and still have a massive audience. It proved the franchise was not locked into a single formula. And I barely touched on the games that had this grid-based movement, the deck building, and real-time action. And it was all blended together in this really unique, fun way. But Battle Network's success did mean that Capcom had one more Mega Man to babysit. And when the early 2000s style kids media gold rush started to dry up, Battle Network suddenly wasn't so easy to keep on life support. A lot of Battle Network's success was era dependent, but Capcom was gonna try to extend that magic anyway. Mega Man Star Force launched in 2006, and it was clearly designed to continue the Battle Network model, a kid-focused handheld game with a companion anime series. The anime ran from 2006 to 2008. The game and the show were meant to keep the brand active, but Star Force did not become Battle Network. Now, this isn't meant as a criticism to Star Force itself. The games are fine and the anime found its audience. But the timing was off. The cultural moment had changed, and Battle Network had already set the standard for a modern, kid-focused Mega Man. Star Force felt more like Capcom trying to keep that moment going after it had already started to fade, rather than a true new direction. The Star Force anime ran for 2 years. The game series ended after 3 mainline entries. And with that, the era of Mega Man as a regularly churning kids media franchise essentially ended. This is the pattern. Mega Man can ride a wave if he actually catches it, but Capcom keeps showing up to the beach after the tides are already gone. Star Force was Capcom chasing Battle Network's ghost, but the party was already over and everyone else left hours ago. Here's the other half of the story. While all this was happening with Mega Man's identity crisis, Capcom was changing, and Capcom is changing in ways that makes Mega Man's position in the company less and less obvious. StreetFighter 2 came out in 1991, and it's one of the most important video games ever made. It basically creates the competitive fighting game genre as a commercial phenomenon. It sells everywhere, it moves hardware, it's a cultural event. And it establishes Street Fighter as one of Capcom's most important franchises. Resident Evil came out in 1996, and it did the same thing for survival horror, another massive franchise, another enormous commercial success, another pillar of Capcom's identity that is not Mega Man. Then, Devil May Cry arrived in 2001, a stylish action game that spawned its own franchise and its own dedicated audience. Then Monster Hunter started in 2004. It took some time to catch on in the West, but in Japan, it became huge right away. Monster Hunter eventually became one of Capcom's biggest franchises, pushing the company into new levels of commercial success with games like Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter Rise, each selling tens of millions of copies. Look at Capcom's own sales numbers and the hierarchy is clear. Resident Evil is at 183 million units, Monster Hunter at 125 million, Street Fighter at 58 million, and Mega Man at 44 million. Those are all impressive numbers, but 44 million versus 183 million is a completely different position in the company's priorities. Monster Hunter as a franchise eventually becomes one of Capcom's dominant pillars, and Monster Hunter World alone sold at a scale no individual Mega Man has ever approached. Capcom turned into a company that built around global blockbusters, tentpole releases, DLC, endless remakes, digital storefronts, everything everyone loves about modern games. In that world, Mega Man isn't a failure, he's just not a priority. He's not the reason Capcom's earnings look good. He's not exactly what they're betting on for next year. This is just the reality for companies. When something isn't a top priority, it drifts. It gets maintained, not championed, preserved, not grown. There'd be a few people in Capcom still cared, but the company as a whole had moved on. Mega Man got left behind by a company that outgrew the version of itself where Mega Man was the obvious answer to any important questions. So now we're in the HD era, PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, Wii, all that, and Mega Man has a problem. Actually, Mega Man has several problems stacked on top of each other. The first is genre. In the mid to late 2000s, 2D action platformers were no longer at the center of the mainstream console market. The industry had shifted towards 3D games, with shooters, open world games, and more cinematic experiences. The top selling and most talked about games were titles like Halo, Grand Theft Auto, Gears of War, Call of Duty, and Uncharted, and none of these were 2D platformers. So what do you do with a character who, at his core, is a 2D platformer mascot? You could make them 3D. Mega Man Legends had already tried this, and it built a cult audience, but was not a mainstream success. A fully modern 3D Mega Man game would require a significant investment, clear design vision, and a willingness to potentially alienate the classic fanbase while trying to win over a different audience. Or you could just keep them 2D like Mega Man 9 and 10. Mega Man 10 was great, no denying that, but it was a nostalgia play, and everyone knew it. NES visuals, classical structure, old school difficulty, that was the whole point. It was there to remind people why they loved Mega Man. But as a long-term strategy, remember 1988 only gets you so far. And Mega Man 9 also existed. You could do a 2.5D modernization, updated visuals, new mechanics, classic structure. That's what Mega Man 11 eventually does, years later. But by the mid-2000s, Capcom didn't commit to that path yet. Sure, Capcom could have put Mega Man onto mobile, but in the early 2010s, that was basically code for, we've given up. Even Nintendo was yelling about how putting big games on phones would ruin them. Maybe they were right, maybe not, but everyone believed it. Maybe Mega Man could survive mobile now, but if Capcom had tried back then after killing off every other product, and they killed off a lot, we'll get into that. Fans would have seen it for what it was, a funeral, not a comeback. You could try a darker Western developed reboot. There were actually reports of exactly this. A first-person shooter Mega Man X reboot called Maverick Hunter that was in development at a Western studio before it was killed. The concept apparently exists. Apparently there's a prototype out there. It just never came out. The point is, Capcom had options. There were several possible versions of a modern Mega Man, and some sounded very appealing, but Capcom couldn't commit to any of them. Without commitment, the franchise just drifted. We're not here because they ran out of options with Mega Man. We're stuck here because Capcom kept half-starting a dozen different ideas and then bailing on all of them. Every direction looked good on paper, but nobody ever actually pulled the trigger. So Mega Man just sat there collecting dust while the rest of the industry sprinted past him. In October 2010, Keiji Inafune left Capcom after 22 years with the company. Okay, let me be precise about who Inafune was and what his actual relationship to Mega Man was, because this story tends to get simplified in a way that flattens what is actually a more complex and interesting situation. Inafune is often called the creator of Mega Man, and he has sometimes let people think that. In reality, Mega Man was created by a team. Akira Kitamura was the original game director, and he did a lot of the core design work. And Inafune has said his main contribution to the first game was the character art. He designed Mega Man's look, which is a big deal. Like we said before, visual identity matters a lot. It's one of the reasons Mega Man is still remembered to this day. But over time, Inafune became the most publicly visible face associated with the franchise. He produced numerous Mega Man games. He was also a vocal advocate for the series internally and externally. When fans wanted someone to appeal to about the franchise's direction, Inafune was a name they knew. When Capcom wanted to talk about the franchise at events and press conferences, Inafune was often the spokesperson. So when Inafune left, it mattered not because he was the only creative genius behind Mega Man, he wasn't. And saying so kinda ignores the many others who built the franchise, but more because he was one of the most visible internal champions for the series. He was the one person who, by all accounts, kept pushing inside Capcom for Mega Man's future, for new projects, and for the character to get attention. It's also worth noting what Inafune said about why he left. His frustrations weren't just with Capcom, he was publicly critical of the broader Japanese gaming culture. Whether you agree with his diagnosis or not, the departure was significant. And what followed Inafune's exit at Capcom made it even more significant in retrospective, because right after he left, Capcom started swinging the axe.
We can't do that! It's slavery! Sounds good to me.
If you are a Mega Man fan in the early 2010s, this is where it starts to get painful. After Inafune bailed, Capcom didn't just kill one game. It was like they found a cancel button and decided to see how many times they could smash it before someone took it away. Mega Man Universe showed up in 2010. The pitch was wild. You could build your own Mega Man levels, smash up old game pieces, maybe even play as other Capcom characters. The trailer looked cool, it had real potential. Imagine Mario Maker but for Mega Man. But Mega Man Universe was cancelled in March 2011. Capcom cited various circumstances and gave no further details. And then there was Mega Man Legends 3. Now, this one is its own special kind of wound because, to be blunt, this was handled insanely by Capcom. Legends 3 was announced on September 29, 2010 and was in development for the Nintendo 3DS. What made Legends 3 unique was Capcom's creation of the Dev Room. It was a fan community program where fans could actually help with the development of the game. They could submit designs, vote on features, and get feedback on ideas. It was actually a really cool idea and created real emotional investment into the game's completion. You see where this is going. People had contributed and felt personally involved. Then in July 2011, Capcom canceled both Mega Man Legends 3 and the prototype version, which was a playable sample planned as an early release so fans could try it and get feedback. Both were canceled at the same time. The game was gone and so was the prototype fans had been waiting for. Capcom said the game failed to meet their development criteria but gave no further details. A normal cancellation is disappointing, but Legends 3 heard differently because Capcom turned waiting into participation. The dev room made the community feel like they were partners, like they were involved. A cancellation felt like they had been used for engagement and then discarded. The reaction was understandably fierce.
Decide to up and cancel it for no reason. What, do you think it wouldn't fucking sell? What, do you think that people suddenly aren't fucking Mega Man fans? What, do you think people aren't actually buying the fucking 3DS? Did you ever fucking think that if you're not bringing games out for a platform that's not actually going to succeed, so you're never gonna fucking see money? And hell,
3 canceled. I don't know what they thinking, man. I'm actually about to stop buying Capcom games, but
in letters to Capcom, letting them know that you want Mega Man Legends 3 to be made. That it's a game that we all want to be made.
why the fuck would you announce it and then just take it away after all the fucking work that those motherfuckers put into it, and after all the fans who were actually interested in it put money down on it?
They made the prototype to see how it would do to the consumers, and it didn't work. They didn't even give it a chance.
Mega Man Online, also called Rockman Online, was an MMO being developed by Korean developer NeoWiz. Reports in late 2012 said the project had been stopped. Importantly, this was mutual between Capcom and NeoWiz, not just one side canceling it. That distinction matters, but it didn't change the outcome for fans who were following the project. Now, Maverick Hunter was a darker, Western-developed first-person shooter reboot of Mega Man X, as we mentioned earlier. This project never got a formal public release. It was only later revealed as a real project that was canceled before it reached that stage. Now consider the timing. 2011, 2012, right after Inafune's departure. Multiple projects in various stages of development all stopped, and Capcom is offering very little public explanation for it. For a few years, Mega Man's future existed mostly as things Capcom announced, developed, teased, invited fans to participate in, and then buried. That whole mess left a scar. Not only was it disappointing, it was fans realizing that Capcom couldn't be trusted to actually finish what they started with Mega Man. He was expendable in a way Resident Evil or Monster Hunter never would be. Fans spent years trying again, believing in what Capcom was building. The cancellations were Capcom telling them the game was already over. And that scar has not entirely healed, even to this day. After leaving Capcom, Inafune started a new company called Concept and eventually became involved in a project called Mighty No. 9. Mighty No. 9 started as a Kickstarter campaign in 2013 and was openly promoted as a spiritual successor to Mega Man. The idea was simple. Inafune, now independent from Capcom, would make the Mega Man game Capcom wouldn't. Fans who felt abandoned by Capcom saw the person most associated with Mega Man offering to make something similar without corporate interference. The Kickstarter raised nearly $4 million. That was successful by any measure. The enthusiasm was genuine and understandable. After years of cancellations and neglect, here was something to point to, something to hope for. The game came out in 2016 after multiple delays and a turbulent, very public development process, and the reception was not good. The game wasn't a total dumpster fire. I mean, it worked, sort of, but it wasn't what anyone wanted. And between the bugs, the weird design choices, the endless delays, and some truly baffling marketing, it ended up as a warning sign, not the comeback story we were hoping for. And I want to be careful here about what conclusion to draw from Mighty No. 9 because this story can get oversimplified in two directions. One direction is Capcom bad, Inafune good, Mighty No. 9 was sabotaged by circumstance and haters. But that one doesn't hold up. The other direction is Inafune was a fraud, he was never the real talent, Mega Man was never really his to begin with, and Mighty No. 9 exposed that. That one is too reductive and unfair. The real lesson of Mighty No. 9, the way I see it, is this. Mega Man's formula is harder to recreate than it looks. Nostalgia can tell you something should exist, but it can't replace the design precision, resources, timing, and creative clarity that made the best Mega Man games work. Capcom proved Mega Man could not be solved by ownership alone. The cancellations proved that. But Mighty No. 9 proved the opposite was also true. You couldn't simply remove Capcom from the equation, invoke Mega Man's ghost, and expect the magic to return. The brand itself was the thing, and the brand belonged to Capcom.
What's this? Don't worry, it's just school cafeteria food. In Japanese
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
So with active development largely stalled and cancellations having burned through significant fan goodwill, what does Capcom actually do with Mega Man through most of the 2010s? Well, they turned him into a legacy product, basically a mascot for your childhood. Collections, ports, anniversary editions, cameos in random Capcom games, merch, crossovers, nostalgia spam. If you can name it, they probably slap Mega Man on it. They've dropped the legacy collection for every mainline game series so far, and guess what? They all sell. No numbers for Star Force collection yet, it just came out in March, but here's what we do know. These numbers aren't bad. Actually, they're kind of impressive. There's a real audience here. People will buy Mega Man stuff no matter how many times you repackage it. The real takeaway though is Capcom figured out the safest way to make money off Mega Man is just to sell people their own memories. No new ideas, just reheated leftovers. And the more Capcom sold Mega Man's history, the clearer got history is all they're willing to sell. Anything else apparently is too risky. Mega Man isn't really a franchise anymore. He's a museum exhibit. Real franchises take risks and try new stuff. Legacy products, just slap an emulator on it and wait for the nostalgia crowd to buy the same game for the 5th time. Capcom found the absolute floor, the bare minimum to keep Mega Man on life support. And for almost a decade, that was good enough for them. There were cameos. Mega Man appeared in Smash Bros, which kept him visible in a cultural sense. There were crossovers in mobile games and various other properties. The character remained recognizable. Mega Man, who was once arguably the best third-party franchise on a NES, was now catalog inventory. Capcom drags him out for special occasions and tosses him back into storage. That's kind of the plan here. He's just a mascot they dust off whenever they feel like it. The audience keeps showing up and Capcom keeps serving up nostalgia. And the gap between what Mega Man is and what Mega Man used to be just keeps getting wider. At this point, it's practically a canyon. 2018 rolls around and Capcom tries again to get a new audience with a new animated series, Mega Man Fully Charged. And it was definitely an attempt. It was developed by Man of Action, the company behind Ben 10, along with Dentsu Entertainment USA and DHX Media, now WildBrain. It premiered on Cartoon Network in the United States and ran for 52 11-minute episodes. So now Mega Man is Aki-like, a robot kid who goes to school, hangs out with his friends, and turns into a superhero. It doesn't really have the same style or feel that older fans will recognize anymore. Now the whole thing is brighter and goofier and mostly aimed at little kids. And Cartoon Network yanked this thing off the schedule pretty fast. The rest of the episodes are just sort of put out online or on an early morning death slide or basically wherever they could hide the thing. There were originally plans for a second season until it was canceled after Cartoon Network and the production companies disagreed on how to move forward. To be fair, it's easy to duck on Fully Charged, but I get where they were going for. The logic makes sense. Mega Man fans had aged out of cartoons, so you reboot them for kids and hope lightning strikes twice. That's not a dumb plan. Other franchises have pulled this off. Sometimes this stuff actually works. But Fully Charged never pulled off what Battle Network did. It was just another attempt to modernize Mega Man that gets the business side but totally misses the character. It was like a room full of execs sat around asking, what do kids like? And nobody wanted to say, how about just Mega Man? The 90s cartoon was dumb, but at least it was Mega Man. Battle Network and Star Force as well. Fully Charged just felt like a marketing pitch that somehow got animated. I said I wasn't going to dunk on it, so I'll end it here. But Cartoon Network dropping it so fast pretty much says it all. The new kids didn't care either.
from Dr. Wily.
Also in 2018, the same year Fully Charged premiered, which tells you something about Capcom trying multiple strategies simultaneously. Mega Man 11 comes out for PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. This is the first new mainline classic Mega Man game since Mega Man 10 in 2010. That's 8 years. And it's good. It's genuinely really good. Mega Man 11 basically refuses to mess with the classic formula. You still get 8 Robot Masters, themed stages, the usual parade of stolen weapons, a fortress, and of course, Wily being Wily. The big change? The game looks shinier now. They slap 3D models on 2D stages, so everything pops. The new addition this time is the double gear system. Speed gear allows you to slow everything down so you can actually dodge stuff instead of just eating damage like an idiot. Power gear makes your shots hit harder. And if you're about to die, you can mash both at once for a desperate burst of power before the whole thing overheats. So yeah, they threw in a new gimmick, but it's still Mega Man. You're still running, jumping, and blasting your way through robot hell like always. Mega Man 11 didn't need to reinvent the wheel. After everything that happened, the cancellations, the museum years, and the fully charged awkwardness, it just needed to prove Mega Man could still be Mega Man without feeling like an apology or a museum tour. And it did that. The game was well received. Critics liked it, fans liked it. People who had been waiting for a new Mega Man game for almost a decade played it and felt like Capcom finally remembered what made the series good. And it sold about 2.2 million units. That number matters because it answers a question that's been around the franchise for years. Can Capcom make a new Mega Man game that people will actually buy? After all the cancellations and decades of collection editions and cameos, was there even a real market for a new mainline entry? Yes, clearly there was. And this is where the story gets annoying all over again. Mega Man 11 came out in October 2018, and after that, silence. No Mega Man 12 announcement, no here's what's coming next for the franchise, just Mega Man 11. Very well received, commercially successful, and then nothing for years. Mega Man 11 answered the question, can Capcom still make a Mega Man game people will buy? But it didn't answer the harder question, can Capcom turn Mega Man back into an active franchise? Because if you can drop a new Mega Man game after 8 years, sell 2.2 million copies, and then just do nothing for years, you're basically leaving a pile of money and goodwill on the table and just walking away. Mega Man 11 was successful enough to prove that Mega Man wasn't dead, but apparently not successful enough for Capcom to act like he was actually alive. Alright, let me show you something. This is Capcom's Integrated Report of 2025, and it's about as exciting as a spreadsheet. It's full of corporate language and mostly points out things everybody already knows. But if you look past all the business talk, there's one important detail inside. Capcom says it's putting most of its focus into Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, and StreetFighter. These are listed first and are clearly top priorities. Next, they mention Mega Man, Devil May Cry, and Ace Attorney. These series aren't gone or ignored, they're still popular, but they're not quite main franchises yet. Capcom plans to keep releasing new games, remakes, and ports for them, hoping eventually they'll become core IP. Capcom chose those words on purpose. In their careful corporate language, Capcom is saying Mega Man still matters. He still has value, fans, and name recognition, but he's no longer leading the way. And yeah, that matches what fans have been saying for years. Mega Man still sells. Mega Man 11 in the collections told us that. The problem was never the lack of interest in Mega Man, the problem was Capcom treating them like something to preserve and not something to develop further. That's why this report is actually interesting. Capcom's new strategy seems designed for Mega Man. Catalog sales, digital releases, new games, ports, remakes, licensing, and more. It's about turning old franchises into something that can grow. So yeah, Capcom finally built a business model where Mega Man actually fits again. The real question is whether they'll actually do anything about it, because just saying we want to grow Mega Man into core IP in a report is easy. Actually doing it, that means picking a direction. That means deciding which Mega Man is going to lead the charge. That means not just dropping a game, cashing in on nostalgia, and then ghosting for another decade. Mega Man 11 already proved people will show up for a new game. This report proves Capcom knows the brand is worth something. Now the only thing left is to see whether Capcom treats Mega Man like he has a future and not just a spot in the archives. Which brings us to Mega Man Dual Override. And obviously there's only so much to say right now because, well, we basically know nothing. But from what Capcom has shown, the most interesting part isn't some deep gameplay reveal or giant franchise roadmap. The announcement answers a question that's been quietly lurking under the surface of the entire Mega Man story. When fans say Capcom should just bring Mega Man back, what do they actually mean? Capcom mishandled this franchise, absolutely. The cancellations, the silence, the nostalgia farming, all that's on them. But when fans say Capcom should just bring Mega Man back, I don't think that sentence means one thing anymore. Classic fans want Mega Man 12, X fans want X9, Legends fans are still emotionally trapped on the moon somewhere. Us Battle Network fans had a completely different childhood franchise under the same name, and I'm sure Star Force fans exist somewhere, maybe. And all of these groups are technically Mega Man fans. So if Capcom makes Mega Man 12, X fans are gonna ask where X9 is. If Capcom makes X9, Legends fans are gonna, well, I'm not even gonna get your hopes up again, it's not happening. And if Capcom makes Battle Network 7, Classic fans are gonna think they abandoned the original. There's almost no winning here. But Dual Override is Capcom finally giving us an answer. After decades of splitting Mega Man into Classic, X, Legends, Battle Network, Zero, ZX, Star Force, and whatever else, Capcom looks like they're finally going back to the version everyone actually recognizes. Not X, not Walnut, not EXE, not Geo. Mega Man, the blue helmet, the arm cannon, the mascot, the version that started this whole mess. And yeah, that makes perfect sense. If Capcom wants to rebuild Mega Man, the last thing they should do is try to revive 6 abandoned title lines at once. This is basically just Mega Man 12 with a new name, so new players don't panic. It wants to be an entry point. Now, personally, I'd prefer if they did something a bit bolder and more experimental, but I realize Mega Man isn't really in position for that right now. So, just go back to basics, remind people who Mega Man is, and build from there. But this also makes me a bit nervous because Capcom has done this dance before. They've picked a direction before. They've chased trends before. They've revived Mega Man before. And the second things get complicated, they always pivot. They'll split the audience again, or they'll just let the whole thing rot until fans are left arguing about which abandoned version deserves another shot. Maybe it is the beginning of an actual plan. Or maybe it's just another moment where Capcom remembers Mega Man exists, drags him out, waits to see if anyone claps, and then quietly shoves him back in the closet. That's the hardest part here. Mega Man doesn't really need another cameo, he needs commitment. So how did Mega Man go from Capcom's mascot to an afterthought? Slowly. And it wasn't because one game failed and everyone suddenly stopped caring. And no, he didn't lose what suddenly made him special in the first place. He just got passed by. Capcom changed, the industry changed. Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, and Street Fighter became the pillars Capcom could actually build around. Mega Man, he became something easier to preserve than to push forward. And as a fan, that's the frustrating part. Mega Man was never treated like he had no value. Capcom knew he mattered. They kept the collections coming, they brought him back from Mega Man 11, and they kept putting him in crossovers, merchandise, legacy releases, and anniversary celebrations. But that's not the same as giving him a future. For over a decade, Mega Man wasn't dead, he was just maintained, remembered, repackaged, and sidelined. And now, Dual Override has the answer to the question Capcom has been avoiding for years. Is Mega Man still a part of Capcom's future? Or is he just the face of what Capcom used to be? Who knows? Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. This one was really fun to put together. So if you liked it, let me know. Do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, and all that, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks. See ya.
I built this robot to handle household chores. Her name is Rome.
She's pretty.
Yes. And you can think of her as your sister.